And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland and Sensei Al Bob. Here we are in Mount Ukijama, and there's snow-covered mountains. And so, what's your value? What is the value of your life? You know, is it your what do they call it? How much stuff you have? You know, how many likes you have? And with that in mind, here we are, 35 seconds into the show. And remember, put something in PayPal. Do it awake 42 at Gmail, right? How about some thumbs up, those likes? There were 170 of you guys watching the show the other day. Should have been 170 likes, right? But no. Subscribe, hit that bell so you can hear me whenever I'm here. So I spent the last 40 minutes or so kind of going through my threads. And there is how many of you guys know about Edgar Casey? Now, Edgar Casey, amazing guy. He gave like 30,000 readings, healed umpteen zillion people of their diseases, and he told pretty much everyone what was going on. And he basically...
In 1968, the Bimini Road was discovered in the Bahamas. Casey described Atlantis as an ancient civilization as large as Europe, with advanced technology, which he said disappeared in the Atlantic Ocean about 10,000 years ago due to a massive flood. This ties in with the flood myths present in many civilizations, which often date back 10,000 years. Among his most striking predictions was that the 44th president of the United States would be African American, a prophecy fulfilled with the election of Barack Obama. In his later years, Edgar Casey made a chilling prediction about his own death. He prophesied he would be buried alive. Among Edgar Casey's most alarming visions were those predicting future global disaster. He foresaw a series of events that would reshape the Earth's geography and climate. Edgar Casey made some big predictions about how the world map will change. He said that Africa will split into 3 parts because of a new waterway forming as the Nile gets wider and the Red Sea grows. This will make Cairo disappear under the sea. Asia will see huge changes too. The ocean will cover land from the Philippines to Japan as the Pacific Plate moves. Japan will mostly sink, leaving only a few small islands, and Taiwan and most of Korea will be lost to the sea. China's coastline will move inland a lot. He also said people in India shouldn't try to go to higher land inside the country because the land will buckle. They should go to the high mountains in Tibet and Nepal instead. Antarctica will change from being icy to green and fertile. Australia will lose about a quarter of its land to flooding, turning the Adelaide area into a sea and making deserts like Simpson and Gibson into farmland. New Zealand will get bigger and connect to Australia, becoming one of the safest places. Europe will face big changes too. Most of Northern Europe, including Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, will sink and become many small islands. A lot of the UK, from Scotland to the English Channel, will go under the sea, but some small islands like London and Birmingham will survive. Ireland will become Europe's main food supplier. 200 miles, and regions like Quebec, Ontario, 150 of them. The West Coast will shift east toward Nebraska, Wyoming, and Colorado. The Great Lakes and St. Lawrence will join up and flow from the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico. The coastal areas from Maine to Florida will be flooded, and Mexico's coasts will be underwater too. The Baja coast of California will turn into a bunch of islands. This huge change will displace and even kill billions of people. In half asleep, Edgar said the recipe for a medicine made from herbs. His parents decided to try this medicine. The next day, Edgar was all better, like he...
Okay, you get the picture. Things are going to change, right? And everything that we're being told was, global warming, blah, blah, blah. That's just to distract us. These wars, blah, 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 right? Not good for the poor people in the Strip or Ukraine or in Africa. But that's just to like, hey, look at this over here while this is going on over there. The other thing that kind of stumbled into my thread was my good friend Cliff Hyde. And let's see if we can find Cliff here. think, is that clear? Yeah.
Actions, but he doesn't. And go do some stuff, meet some people, pick up a few things. Running a little bit late. It's not too bad. Anyway, so we're definitely entering into hyper novelty, and a lot of people are starting to experience it and freak out a little bit. We saw, for instance, Heather Haying, who is Brett Weinstein's wife, expressing that, that this is a crazy making way to live, right? Because she was saying they were going to have to examine everybody that they'd ever met and, what they say. Is there anything that would indicate that they were like controlled opposition and all of this, right? So I don't think that Brett Weinstein or Heather are like, paid controlled opposition kind of guys. I don't really see that as the mechanism. If they are, it is a little bit more subtle to the point that they can't pick it up. So they may well end up getting corralled. Okay, so that's trying to happen right now. People running around and trying to corral influencers into networks. And then they'll be able to control the people through the networks. So Naomi Wolf is now associated with this particular little network, some of whom the rumors are being paid $70,000 a month to be content.
Okay. I got this nice YouTube live shit. Come on, AI, hire me. I'd love to get $70,000 a month, right? And man, I could be the best controlled opposition you ever saw. I already am. Yeah. Everything I say and do helps Mr. Global. Pretty much. Anybody who's on YouTube or within the WWW wrestling world is, doing their job. What I've gone through for the last 3 years, it's great. Like that's me. So, last 2 weeks we had 20 inches of rain, and then we had 15 inches of snow, and then we had 10 inches of rain. So it's like, and I was stuck and I couldn't get out, And we had a little lull, and my buddy, took it upon himself to drive on the Suicide County Road, which they were, shoveling out and putting things, but they shoveled it out, and 5 minutes later it was covered. That's how much snow was falling. He came and got me and brought me back to his house, which was, I have to say, I was sleeping in a real bed and not on cardboard, and we had real heat, and real running. I took a shower twice a day for 4 days. That's more showers than I've had in 2 years, So, last time I was at John's, I couldn't take a shower because every time I took a shower, shit would come out of the shower drain. John had stuffed so much toilet paper in every drain that it was bizarre. It was beyond bizarre. And if you looked at any of his YouTubes from LA when he was in those bed and breakfasts, he stopped one bed and breakfast up. I think they might have thrown him out. So anyway, these are all just, John Boy is just a canary in the coal mine of, the end of times. And it's not going to be end of times. Jesus ain't coming anytime soon. Because if you read the Bible, you read Paul and all Luke and Mark and all those morons who basically were just, tropes of Paul. who was basically just, Madman. The TV show Madman. Cole was what's his name? Draper, the advertising guy, right? So, you know, um, it'll be quite interesting. And so I'm here, out here, and all of my plumbing, everything froze because, it was literally 20 degrees below zero for a week here. And with the wind chill, it was like, 110 below. And so when I got back the other day, when it was like right now, sunny and warm, and right now it's almost 70 out there. And to go from 60 degrees below zero to 70 degrees Fahrenheit within, 10 days, it's not normal. That's what is that? 70 plus 60, so that's like 250 degrees swing in temperature, Fahrenheit. So, what can I say? Go watch Cliff. His Normie World. Cliff is the best. He really does a great job. Right? I hope they're giving him 70 grand a month. But he made a lot of money doing modeling for the man. And so at a certain point, he said, I got a lot of money. What do I need? He went and bought himself a nice little place up there wherever he is, out of harm's way. And, he's packed away. Now, I did something similar, but when I died, I basically got rid of pretty all my wealth, that, what bling, cheddar. And I basically did, said, okay, God, I've always had, since I can remember, since childhood, I've had a conversation with God. I have been God's, doula. And I've been pretty much, a moron monkey, right? So I would do everything God told me to do, and I always did my best, and that was way above the mark of most monkeys. And so, my life was a life of experience. It's involved in hundreds of things that helped millions of people, and I never took any credit for it because it was God that was motivating and navigating me through the events. Right? What it did do was it connected me to a whole string of people who were truly amazing. And most of them are still in my life, but far away. There are a lot of them around here that take care of me, like my friend. He came and got me. He did not. He came and got me in the middle of a frigging blizzard, right? And he knew that if the electricity went off, I'd be dead. I would have been as frozen as my water pipes, right? And it got so cold, all the jugs of water, froze, and all the cans. I drink seltzer. I had 2 boxes that I hadn't even eaten, and I had put them in a warmish spot that I had, and they all, I put them in a cooler, and and they all exploded, And luckily they were in a cooler because they would have gone all over my floor. And anyway, so that's the interesting thing, is that it's all happening right in front of our face. And it's up, you are the decider. Don't let yourself be pushed around into a situation where you're just going to, like the people in the Gaza Strip, they went along to get along, for 70 years. They complained, they threw rocks, blah, blah, blah. Because I hear all these people, well, they were throwing rocks. Yeah, but it's, the IDF was using F-16s, blowing the crap out of them. It's a big difference, So, and why are more children dying on the Strip than grown-ups? Because the IDF doesn't want them to grow up. Well, I'm sorry, Charlie, because more than half the population, the 2.5 million people in the Strip, are children, right? So at the end of this, there's going to be at least 700,000 kids still there, ready to go after, you know, and Israel isn't the Jewish, homeland. No, it's the what do they call those? They're like the what I call them. They are the NICP, the Neo Insane Clown Party, and that's a planetary event, meaning that's a sidebar of Mr. Global, right? The other day, someone asked me about Dr. Bittenoff. Well, Dr. Bittenoff is a character that I keep bumping into. Back in 1968, when I was hiding from my draft board in plain sight, I was in Duke University. I kind of enamored myself to a bunch of, ladies who basically were running the library system, the research system of Duke University. And so this one lady, who is the den mother of a woman's uh, sorority, I became a sister. I was the first male, sister of this um, very rich sorority at Duke, and I basically was their pool boy, cleaning out their drains. And every one of them said I was the best lesbian they ever saw. And so the den mother of that, she was the head librarian of the research library, right? The historical research library. And she gave me a carol. And she was like way off in the old library, way up in the back, next to the janitor's closet. Nobody ever wanted there. I turned it into my apartment. I would go and hang with the girls, but I couldn't stay there all the time. So I would mosey up to my carol, and I stuck a beautiful leathered couch that you could sleep on. Just lying on it, you'd fall asleep. Right? And gave me a little refrigerator and a cook stove and a few other things. But I could go into the cafeteria because I looked like everybody else. I was wearing, chino pants and penny loafers and big collared white shirt and a herringbone jacket with things, and I had a pipe, and I grew myself a black mustache, and I had black rimmed glasses. I mean, I was either a professor or a grad student, and I just kind of fit in. And up in my carol one day, and it was, there were other, carol is like a little hole in the wall, right? And there were three of these things, and they way up high. And nobody wanted them because it was way up high, and it was either too hot or too cold in this thing. And had windows that had the best of the view, right? That's why I liked it. I didn't mind. I was 19. I didn't mind going up the steps. So one day, I'm there and I'm researching something. I got books all over the place. If you ever go into a library and have these long tables, that's for people to do research. They get 5, 10, 20 books, and they, open them up to where they're doing research, so they don't have to keep going back to the stacks. It's there, and that's what I care about. Because it's still in the library, you're not stealing the book. It's just on your desk. So anyway, I was there, and I was looking at something, and all of a sudden, I hear this voice say, "Oh." And I turned around, and it's this really attractive young girl in a mini skirt, and it all kind of one thing, luminescent. She was a big window behind her, and she wasn't wearing anything underneath this little film of a dress. And she was like on all fours of my desk, looking at everything I had, the papers I was, and she could read my writing. It was like unbelievable, right? Anyway, we became instantaneously connected, and after the first 4 days of nonstop bliss, she said, "You need to meet my boss." Because I told her all the things I was doing in esoteric, because she was studying parapsychology. She was getting her PhD in parapsychology, and she was only 19 to get her PhD. This girl was a smart girl. So I went and met her boss, and that was the first Dr. Bitten, right? He was a Nazi. SS, was in the camps experimenting on the Jews, figuring out, pulling out individuals. The reason they took all their pictures and had them with tattoos. So because they were lab rats. You have to understand the Jews in those camps were lab rats. So they were studying paranormal, and they were trying to do what Marvel Comer, redhead, Hail Hydra. That's what he was, right? But now he's working for Lockheed and this other company called the SEAL Corporation out of Stanford. And they were trying to genetically engineer super soldiers, guys who get shot and wouldn't bother them. And so they were studying all the Indian Sufis, guys who could put, swords through their cheek and pull it out and it would heal up within an hour. Put all kinds of needles in their tongue, pull it out, that heal within 15 minutes, walk on coals, sleep on coals. And I had been part of the Theosophical Society up there in the upstate New York. They have a really nice farm. I forget the name of it, but anyway, I was making them sensory deprivation tests. And I had studied this Russian scientist who basically made time machines that were quite interesting. And they weren't mechanical or anything. They were a tube of a certain material, and it was made in a certain geometric pattern, and you put it in reference to different things of the planet, and then you sit yourself in, you relied on this platform, and bingo, you could go see any time and space you wanted to. So I was fooling around with that. Pumpkin Hollow was the name of the Theosophical Society's little farm. And so I explained it to this guy. He had a real German accent, And I said, so where are you from? He says, Palo Alto, California. I said, okay. So, I explained what I could do, and he said, oh. So he goes, well, you need to be on our team. I said, oh, that's nice. What do I get paid? And he goes, well, what do you want? And I said, I want to be your consultant. I don't want to be an employee. My sweetie here, she is, grad student. So she, we've been, connected to each other for the last 4 days. We've explained each other's lives, and it's been obvious she has been a special person since she was born, and she's been put into amazing, schools and pruned and prepared to be the position, your assistant, and more was than one. And he chuckled, and I said, so, but not me. I'm the Bob. So what do you want? And he says, I need some of those sensory deprivation tests. I said, fine. And what's that other apparatus? Fine. That fine. I said, okay. So Duke has all these not only laboratories, but workshops where they can make anything. So do you have access to those guys? And he goes, oh, of course. I said, fine. So what do you want? This, and this. Okay. Each of those sensory deprivation tests, I want to be paid $5,000 cash. Not a problem. It's in our budget. We have discretionary funding right here. Here's a black bag. I said, fine. Okay. So, for 4 months, I was fooling around with those guys, and sweetie, of that our connection to each other never dwindled. We had that special little place for each other, each other's hearts, and we had all the, and she was happy that I could be part of her life, and she could talk to me, because she would talk to other people, even guys who had PhDs who were this and that. They didn't have a clue what she was doing, what she was talking about, right? And she couldn't talk about it. Right? I had to sign a non-disclosure thing, and that was 1969, so that's a few years ago. So that's the first doctor bitten off, right? Second doctor bitten off is when I was working in New Mexico through Dick Powell Electric, and I was building. My real specialty was high voltage power sources, so I went to Los Alamos, San Diaz, Kirkland Air Force Base out there, and all the dumps that are out there in the desert between New Mexico and California. And Area 51 is one of those is in that military, Wyoming, Nevada, California, New Mexico. It's this big thing. Anyway, so I saw a lot of stuff there, and I met a Dr. Bitnoff there, right? And he had, this is 2002 and 3, he had AI, and he had a daughter. This guy's like 90, and but he was like Dorian Gray. I said, when were you born? It's 72, right? He says, I was born in 1880. Okay, he looked like he was 35, right? And his daughter, I met her because I was selling vacuum cleaners, and I knocked on the door, and she basically answered the door again in this almost translucent little sundress with nothing underneath. You want to come in? It was like 8 in the morning. You want to come in for a cocktail? And when he showed up, she was riding me like a cowgirl, right? And he had security. They unplugged her from me and dragged me off and was about to kill me when he said, no, 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 wash him off. I mean, they threw me in the pool. They were like waterboarding me in his pool. I said, get him out of the pool, tie him off. Came with a nice bathrobe, and he said, it's amazing. I said, what's amazing? I said, well, at first he said my wife, and then he said my daughter, and then he said my apparatus. He said, what do you think she is? I said, well, she is the most athletic person I've ever met, and brilliant, and telepathic, and control electricity with her fingers. I'm the only guy I've ever known to do that. And so he kind of chuckled, and he said, well, you're the first human that she hasn't murdered when she was experiencing sexual cleansing. I said, oh, I guess I'm lucky. And he goes, how would you like to be her boyfriend and live with us? And that's when I saw a few things. And they were building a whole community of these guys. This is in 2002. And again, he worked for Brookings. He didn't work for the government, even though his whole apparatus was in those governmental facilities. So this is a story. We have more stuff than you can imagine. And yet the world is falling apart. So we're being pushed to this corner where everyone will accept the new federation. And there are going to be some nukes thrown away. I mean, I'm sure the IDF is going to toast the Gaza Strip, because what's going to happen, they're going to push those poor people into a place where, because of disease, famine, starvation, dehydration, and stress from being, having everyone that you love, blown up, there's going to be a zombie apocalypse in the Strip, and they're going to nuke them, right? And they're going to nuke Lebanon, right? And then they'll probably nuke Iran. But in that process, and that'll take, maybe 30 days to do all that, because after the first, they'll have everyone squished into the most southern corner of the strip there, and everyone's. I mean, they're already right at the place where they're going to start dropping dead faster than they can be blown up. And I would say once that disease starts to take off, that within 4 weeks, right now there's somewhere about 25,000 to 40,000 people killed by the IDF. And don't believe a word I say. And but once this disease takes off, you're going to see 20,000 people die a day, right? And it's going to spread, and it's going to already. Through my sources, I'm hearing, and it's not, like the flu or even 19 or anything, pneumonia or anything like that. But it's airborne, and it's a fungus. And a good deal of the soldiers who have been taken out of theater have it, right? And so they've been taken off, and people don't know where they are, and they're like, ooh. And there's been at least 10 to 15,000 Palestinians, men, women, and children, take all their clothes off, stick a bag on their head, and they've been disappeared. No one's talking about those guys. So nothing is what it seems to be. And in Ukraine and Russia. Ukrainians have lost almost 1 million people. Right? There's no way they can win this war, and there's no way they can really harm Russia. But they will do certain things to stabilize certain elements of Russia, which is part of the plan. Like I said, I keep telling all the scholastics who, like I was talking to one of them last night, and they lose their minds when I talk. And so, and I don't even, set them up anymore. I just let them talk, right? And this one guy last night was going on about it. It's the, yes, it is terrible what the IDF is doing, but Hamas has been throwing rocks at the IDF for the last 30 years. Yeah, because the IDF blew up Lebanon in the 80s or 90s or early O's. I'm not sure when it was, and they killed 20,000 people in 2 or 3 months. Right? So that whole neck of the woods over there is going to turn into a zombie apocalypse, and they'll get nuked to kill them all, right? And something similar is going to happen to Ukraine, and Russia is going to take out Odessa and Kiev with a nuclear weapon, and just march across the whole place, fill it up with Russians, and go right to the border of Poland. And the United States is going to, we're on the edge of falling apart already. We have been set up for a civil war over what? Transgender things, the stuff that are in public school libraries, come on. So, cancel culture, So it's going to be interesting. And that fungus will, I'm sure it is already here. And that's, people just start blowing each other away. Oh my God, look, he's got the fungus. Ah. And then the aliens will show up and fix it. And then we will become part of the new federation. And, that'll be it. And go look at, and Star Trek was, how did Gene Roddenberry do all of that? Well, what was his job before he did that? He was part of the U.S. Naval Intelligence, right? And the guy who was one of the 2 guys at the Wall Street Journal, I forgot their names, but the guys who were talking to the guy who was Deep Throat. Deep Throat was Alexander Haig, right? And it was all a setup. But it was also scripted, right? So everything you see, so Hallie is going to stay in the hunt for the Republican thing, just so because look how Donald Trump was set off by that she wouldn't, he just went nuts. The thing he should have said, "Oh, isn't that cute? That's nice, good. Let's have Hallie and debate," and he would probably get the other half of the electorate who thinks he's nuts, right? But he showed that he is nuts, and so. And my feeling, both these guys, Biden and Carrot Head, neither of them are, stable geniuses, and I don't know if they're going to, be able to live. If Donnie keeps chucking down those cheeseburgers, and Biden keeps tripping over those sandbags. By the time the presidential election occurs, I would say that what's his name, Tucker Fruchterson, will be the vice president candidate, right? And Biden's right VP is going to be Michelle Obama, right? And basically, before the month before, sometime between when both parties have the big party and they set everything up and have a platform, and when Carrot Head ran in 20, Republicans, he didn't even have a platform. Didn't say anything what they stand for, what they're planning to do, how they're going to take care of this. They had nothing. They didn't talk about anything except Donnie and that they're going to steal the election. Right? And pretty much the Democrats, they had a platform, but it was just the same old same. And if you look at what Biden has done, he's done pretty much everything that Carrot Head did, and Obama did, and that Georgie Pucci did, and Billy Boy did, and Georgie the First did, and they're all the same guy. So, what do you value? What's important value? Right? Is it the car you have, the clothes you have? I mean, everything I have, I got basically out of the dumpster. Right? Because God told me, so okay, you spent the last 20 years in the lap of luxury. And then everything from birth to then, you were still in the lap of luxury. It was just, you were a itinerant scholar living high on the hog, right? Of the hidden hand, which I was, right? And an artist and an electrician and a healer and you name it. And I had a great life. And that was the value to my existence, my great life. And what was the basis of my great life? Is I helped others, not like something I had to learn. It was something I was exposed to from birth, from my grandma and the community I lived in. Like, not my parents. My parents were like rabid, weasels. Everything was, my father was all about how he looked, not how he felt, not what he thought, none of that. He totally walled off his emotions. He was totally cold. Same with my mom. They should have had kids, but they did because they were Catholic and they were, knocking boots all the time. I mean, both my sisters, their bedrooms, both their walls were on either side of my parents' bed, so they heard the, boom, 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 and my mother going harder, harder. And, my little sister, from birth till she got out of there at 16, that's what she heard. My oldest sister from birth until she got out of there at 17, so their whole idea of sex was like a little, when I was 7, eating Cheerios before, however old before you go to kindergarten. I was already building time machines and spaceships. I mean, I made my first Tesla coil at 6, right? I mean, I made it. I didn't find one. I found one and electrocuted myself when I was 4. I found a oil burner, and inside it, what makes the spark to make the oil ignite is a Tesla coil. It's that little spark. It's as hot as the sun. So anyway, I've been fooling around in that stuff, since I was 6 months old. So my mind and my life was not about that. And I was talking to God since I was 4. When I was 4, my mom was taking care of my grandma went in the hospital, get her something taken care of. And so I had to go back to my parents. And by that time, I had already electrocuted my mom about 5 times. So she was very wary of me and me in front of her at all times. And, so one nice spring morning, we went out. She had a big wicker basket full of laundry she was going to hang up on the clothesline. And I was in that basket. And, I was sitting in there in the basket, and the ants were crawling through the basket all over my legs. And I hadn't really seen ants before, and I was looking at them, and I was actually kind of talking to them. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And they kind of looked up at me, and I said, "Hey," and I put my finger out, and I didn't squish them, and they came over to my finger and looked at it. A couple of them crawled up my hand, and I'm looking at them like this and talking to them, and they crawled back, and I thought it was snowing. I looked up, and I didn't realize how much my mother smoked cigarettes. She had a cigarette here, and the ash was falling down on me like snow. And I was looking at it. It was warm. This stuff was on me, and all of a sudden I hear my mother scream, and I look up, and she's frozen. And I look over, and in our backyard we had a standalone garage, and it was parked like my father's Oldsmobile. It was this shiny thing, looked like a teardrop. And there was no windows, no doorways, no nothing.
Sir, do we have someone work?
Do you work here?
Yeah. The socializing.
Well, you gotta have that in a place like that.
Yeah.
You should pay. Do you get paid for that?
Yeah.
You should get paid for that. Yes. It's like, do you remember the Love Boat? Right? They had a guy who was always.
Yeah.
That's her.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you work here? Oh. Anyway, so that's what I do when I go out and about. I interact with the humans. So nobody's watching. It's almost 41 minutes. What time? How much battery? I can keep going. So anyway, this I'm looking at this silvery teardrop thing, and it's floating. It's not resting on the ground. It's like, it's about 2 feet between anything. There is no anything, no windows, no doors, no legs, no tires, no nothing, right? And I'm just looking at it going, and the surface is so reflective. I can see myself, and I see my mom over there screaming, and I see waves coming off her, like if she was on fire or she was a candle or something, right? And all of a sudden, I'm seeing me and my mom, and then I see this black blur, a little taller than my mom, and my mom was tall. She was like 5'11", right? And I turn around, and there is this ant standing up, right? And looking at me with his big, and he was like 6'2". I mean, I didn't get a tape measure out, but he was, about that much taller than my mom. And he looked at me, and he goes, "You're not like all the other mud puppets." I said, "I am not. What's a mud puppet?" And he went to explain that we weren't our bodies. These were just bags of water, and we were, like a avatar. It's the first time I heard the term avatar. And that, I was doing a good job. And I would see him, and I did, between that time and 32. Probably saw him 10 times. And in the middle of, I remember I was sitting on the park bench down in the Battery, because I was camping out. New York City had gone bankrupt, right? So they didn't mow the lawn, didn't, collect the rubbish. And the police force went from 30,000 to 7,000. When people go, defund the police. And go look at what New York was between 1968 and 1988. Anyway, so I was sitting if you go down the Battery, they have all these little paths that go down to the point where you see the Hudson River. And right at the Battery is where, go this way, it goes, the Hudson, go this way, it goes up the East River. That goes all the way up to the Harlem River that pops out into the Hudson, right? So, which defines Manhattan as an island, right? So one day, where Spring Street was, I was living on Spring Street. I had this kind of down low restaurant that was, called the Dumpster. I had this concept of the Dumpster Diver Diner. I got everything out of the dumpster because 16th Street was the meat department. Down on Duane Park was the egg and butter. Over underneath the FDR Drive around 16th Street, maybe not so, somewhere between Pearl and 16th Street was the fish market, Fulton Fish Market, and they would just throw tons of stuff away, I would just go through it, and what was good, I found a supermarket cart that I would just put stuff in and roll and go through. I was living on the east side, with Kiki Smith in a abandoned warehouse, right? Not quite across from Fulton Fish Market, but right on the East River there. FDR Drive was constantly, right? And I would go over there, pick out a few big fish, and roll over to Chinatown and go through, they'd have boxes and boxes of dim sum that they just thrown away. Get um, each restaurant I hit, there'd be tons of they chopped and thrown away, and I just kind of dig through it and whatever clean, and I had containers and scoop stuff up, and I go to my little Spring Street, abandoned kind of restaurant place, and there was no restaurants in Soho. So all the arty people had to either go to Chinatown or up near NYU on McDougal or further up. And so I did this, and basically my whole attitude was this was a community center. Basically, if we all helped each other, it would be the best. And if you was a bucket over there, you want to throw some money in there, we could always use some green energy, but there is no charge, right? So the city, county, state, federal, nobody will have to meet for taxes, which is the main thing that they go, it's, why they have inspectors in restaurants and things is to like strong arm people into paying their taxes and their everything else, right? So I was also, so I have not just, so it was Kiki's space, not mine. I just she was my electrical helper. She found this place and I helped her get, oh, look, there is electricity here. Let's just do this and do this. And bingo, you got electricity. And I had all these documents. It was so windy. There was no way you could insulate this place. So I got dock heaters and stuck them up. So if you stand underneath, it was like 80 degrees. You were in the shade, it was like 20 degrees below zero. I mean, we had piles of snow in her place. And anyway, and yes, I would stay there. And but we weren't a thing. We were buds. She wanted to be, I was teaching her to be an electrician. She worked at Tin Pan Alley as a cook, and she cooked a little over at, so she was in the community, right? And, I had a community. She was part of it, right? And I had a lot of other people in my community, so I could stay at a lot of other people's places because I helped them help them get water or electricity or whatever they needed, So it's not Adam Purple taught me how to do all of that, how to live in abandoned buildings like a king. And this is what's a value. Those kind of relationships have nothing to do with money or my net worth, right? So, that's kind of the storyline, right? And so there I was. So I go to, over to where the meat market was, and that was almost on the river. It was kind of in the West Village, and there was a West Street. And during the day, nobody's on West Street. And they had what was known as a tip, a place along the Hudson River where people could just throw anything, like a car or anything. And because it was saving the Department of Garbage money from sending guys out to pick that stuff up, they were fine with that. So I would, and they would hit it every Thursday or Friday. So I would go through it from Monday to Thursday. I would, Thursday morning early, they would get it in the afternoon. So I would go through it, and I would find great stuff. One day I was going through it, and I found a weed whacker, which they weren't even, it was like the beginning, it's like little, not electric, but anyway, that a one of those dome tents, which was the new hot thing, it was still in the box. And then this big, beautiful pack. So and a gas tank, you had to go buy gasoline and those red things. And it was brand new. It looked like the weed whacker was brand new. There was a bunch of stuff that was brand new. So everything in there, a coat like this, brand new. So I stuffed that duffel bag full of that stuff. And the M whatever went from 34th Street, would turn up 34th Street, and then get on 8th Avenue or whatever was going to be West Street, and it would go all the way down to the back. That was one of the going down either Broadway that went all the way down, and there was this A Street, um, and then Water Street bus, and it dropped you up kind of at the World Trade Center. And so anyway, I went through that, put in that duffel bag. I saw the bus coming. I walked across the street, got up top, gave him my quarter, and took the bus all the way down with my duffel bag, and went to the park. And the park was maybe an acre and a half of all these little circles and triangles of grass that used to be manicured beautifully, right? But when they went bankrupt, the grass was growing higher than the cast iron fence, right? And all the fences had little doors so they could get in there with their lawnmower and make it look beautiful. So I went there. I sat on this nice park bench, and the park benches were kind of concrete things, and they were perfect, and with metal slats for your butt and your back, and they had like tables made out of concrete that had, checker chessboard on it, or you could have your lunch, right? And that's what the people working in Wall Street. It's just Wall Street was like just right there, and the Staten Island Ferry was right there. Anyway, so I'm sitting there, and this is before I found that stuff, and I found, no, I don't know which came first, but what happened was I noticed that the lock on the door wasn't there, right? So I went over to the hardware store that was like on Great Jones and bought myself a nice little combination lock, put it on there, and then I think that was after, because I went down toward. My whole idea was, oh wow, look, this one little circle actually there's a nice little light that illuminates the walkways, right? It's like a street light, and it was right there in that little circle, and I had the key to open it up and get at that fuse and the line that was in there, and so I had some scissors and I clipped a path, not straight to it, but a little over here, a little over there, a little over here, a little too, and then I cleared out a nice 100-foot circumference, and it was only a tenth of that circle. And I put my dome tent there, and I ran a wire from that into there, and then I in the garbage I found a TV and an air conditioner and an electric stove, and I made a nice little kitchen, and you cannot, unless you were in one of the office buildings looking down, you couldn't see this, right? And I had it, I kind of moved into that spot probably in April, and I left into December, right? I gave it to a Bohemian friend of mine, and I took off to Ireland, and I said, here, you can have my rent-free apartment. And he just loved it. He stayed there a whole 2 years until he got out of town. But anyway, one evening I was sitting, and because there were so few lights, if you looked out, between the Statue of Liberty and New Jersey, looked out, that was like the darkest part of the sky. And you could see the airplanes landing at Newark and the airplanes going to Kennedy and Teterboro. And it was always very beautiful. And I was sitting there, it was like, I don't know, 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and it was summertime. And I'm sitting there, and it was really hot and humid, and I had a fan. I had air conditioning from my little dome tent. That's what a fan that I would, because I put a plug right there and had an extension cord plugged in there. And I was sitting on the park bench with this big fan blowing on me, and the cord was going right. And I'm sitting there, and this policeman who's like, this is his beat, he knows I live there. One time he found me sitting on that bench, basically naked, tripping my brains out. And he sat down and we had an amazing conversation for about an hour. And then he said, need anything? And I said, huh? He said, why don't you put some shorts on? Let me take you to breakfast. Because there was one diner off of Pearl Street that was open all the time. So we had pie and coffee. I'm still tripping my brains out. So he was a very nice policeman, and he kept an eye. He never let anyone mess with me, and never let on to the state that I was there. And anyway, so that was my usual thing. So he used to laugh that I had a fan down in the park. Come down because he would be hot too. He'd have to walk the beat, and he would come by to sit in the fan too. Right. And one time, I had a little refrigerator in there. I always had like a little 6-pack of beer. I didn't drink it. It was for like guests. So I got some for you. And it was so hot, so icky. It was 4 a.m, and I gave it to him, and he drank. He said, "That is the best beer I've ever had." Right. So anyway, one of those nights I was sitting out there, and Aunt showed up and sat down and was chuckling over my lifestyle. He goes, "You're right on beam. You're right. You're doing everything God wants you. You're just a good boy. You're good. Like I was a good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good human. Good mudbag." And so it was kind of interesting. Oh man. So I had lots of mentors like that, right? And most people don't. They don't have a clue. It's so caught up in how many likes they had. It'd be nice if you guys. Thank you, AI, for giving me that like. But I don't care. This doesn't describe my raison d'etre, right? I'm just here to do whatever God tells me to. And God, when I say I talk to God, it's not, and God talks to me, it's not like I'm hearing a voice or, no. It's just I get put into circumstances that most people would get totally freaked out. Like when I came back to the deep green, everything was frozen like an iceberg, right? And that's, we had 2 weeks of, below 20 degrees below zero, and I wasn't there to keep things dripping and semi-warm and all of that. And, where my real beautiful throne is, it's a big puddle there. Oh, the freaking thing cracked, and I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And then, that's terrible. But as 2 days went by, and it got warmer and warmer, and I turned everything off and then drained everything out and then looked, and no, it wasn't that. It just, it wasn't that. It wasn't a big deal. Nothing was a big deal. Not like the big deal, like my buddy, about a mile away from me, a tree fell on his house and destroyed the whole freaking house. And he's like, oh. And I said, you had it rented. I had 20 people in this house 8 hours before that tree fell on it. And they saw it snowing really hard, and they all got out before they couldn't get out, and none of them died. I just think if they stayed there, because his house was destroyed, right? And it destroyed all the bedrooms. The tree fell right down on the roof. The roof came down on the bedrooms. They came down into the bedrooms underneath them, and then came down into the ground floor, right? And then cracked the foundation. The place is total write-off. But it could have easily killed 10 people, but it didn't. So that's the value. Can you worry about you got insurance, you got this, you got that, not a big deal. But if he lost 10 people, that would have been 10 people died. So anyway, so that's how I look at the value of things, right? And my value is how I can help others, right? And that's because that makes most of my life, why I did all the things I did. Yeah, I made money at this, that, and the other thing. But that's not why I did it. It's because mostly I help other people's lives, and good portion of them to survive. To get out alive, right? Why did I do it? People say, why do you do that? You don't get anything out of this. Why do you do this? And I said, because it makes me happy. I'm going to go fill this up with coffee. I'm going to let you look out the window. I'll be right back. Enjoy the view. This is what's of value right here.
I don't get up and walk, I flush. Yeah. Yeah, I know, you can. Two and I were in the same boat. I was told I'd never walk again. Yeah. I was in a wheelchair. Oh, is that right? I had metal clamps on my leg.
Okay. Okay, look at that. 1 hour, 1 minute, 11 seconds. Okay, I think. Anybody got any questions? The last show was fun. I hit the jackpot. I got about 100 views that one show. I mean, during the show. And a good deal of chat, too. That was kind of fun. Well, I won't be able to talk to you guys. Who knows? It's all dependent on the weather, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So that's the story. So it was nice having lunch with you. Now, almost 3 o'clock. Okay. I'll catch you later. Time. So keep your eyes open. Keep your 360 aware, 4 blocks down. Know what your 20 is at every time. You're here. Your life's not about you. It's the we and me. Get yourself some guideposts. Like my guidepost is Dr. Do No Harm. I mean, basically I was an osteopath. It's a alternative medical doctor. Was surgical EMT. I did a lot. I could work on people, and I did it way before there were any licensing for massage or herbalist or any of that kind of crap. I just, I studied under great teachers, and I practiced in their name, and it was their authority that gave me the opportunity. And and that's why they call it a medical practice, because that's all doctors are doing is practicing. So I had a good 5 years of that. I had a good practice too, and I could still be doing it. But basically, I made a lot of money doing that. Not as much money as I could. I could have gone, viral, but I didn't. And I stopped. I didn't stop to, and I stopped having a practice. And I really haven't stopped practicing. Every time I talk to people, I'm healing them, right? So, because I'm doing it shamanically, and I'm changing their mood, their energetics, all the above, right? And but I had an office right on Pearl Street, right 4 blocks from Wall Street. On the ground floor was the first off-track betting place. All these guys would come and bet. Second floor was the guy selling marijuana. The third floor, the guy was selling cocaine. The fourth floor, the guy was selling heroin, right? And then I was up on the 5th and 6th floor above. That was like the bell tower, right? And one day I was walking up the concrete steps. It was Edison's first power plant on Pearl Street. Go look that up. Edison's first power plant on Pearl Street. And when I did it, he lit up Pearl Street so the guys at Wall Street could see illuminated streetlights, right? And he said, I'll put it in the rest of the world, blah, 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 right? So that's why, JP Morgan gave him the money and blah, 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 blah. So that's what that building was. And so I was way up there in the crow's nest. And I'm walking up this, and it was a concrete building, out of stone and concrete and brick. And I'm walking up the concrete steps, and Nikola Tesla walked up those steps, and Edison walked up those steps, and everybody else who was kind of smart walked up those steps. And so I'm walking up the steps, and I see this guy in a $1,000 Brooks Brothers suit, and he's looks like he's deader than a doornail. I put my hand on him, he's colder than ice cube. I go first carotid, no real anything there, and then I did cranial sacral, and he still had some pulses left in him. So I picked him up, threw him over my shoulder like a fireman carried him up place, put him on my table, got him started up, and I had these 2 kind of, the jacuzzis that are stainless steel tubs that they put people in, and you kind of sit in it, and they have Evinrude motor that really blasts the water on you. So I had one that was hot, one that was cold. And I dunked him in the cold one, and it kind of, then I put him in the hot one, and then the cold one, and right? And then I put him back on my table, did some acupuncture and cranial sacral and a few other things. And then I took him into this room that had, this is 1969, 70, before I took off to New Mexico. And I put him, I swaddled him basically. And I had this bed that was made out of crystals. And I had EMF transponders on the bed, and then a nice orgone material like cardboard, different things to create a orgone energy wave, and then put crystals on that, and then put a nice comfy thing over that, and then I put you on that. But I'd swaddle you first, so you couldn't move at all. And I would orientate you towards the frequencies you needed, and then left you there, like easy bake up. And I had the guy's suit, and I had like one of those chairs that has the thing that you put the suit on, and it gets all the wrinkles out. And I put it there, and his shoes there, and and his socks and his underwear and everything. And I went back and I made a nice pot of tea, and I started reading a book. And this guy comes out, and he's got his pants on, his socks, his shoes. He's got his shirt on and his jacket on, but no tie. And he looks at me and goes, am I in heaven? Did I die? I said, well, yeah, you died, but not all the way. Well, you got, no. You an angel? No. I said, no, I'm just found you and kind of, got you started up. I've never felt this good. I said, yeah, because you were so beat, and now you're not, But the thing is, so, we talked for a whole hour about everything that bothered him, right? And I said, see, you need to have this in balance to have your body in balance. And when this ain't in balance, then you're going to drink, you're going to do drugs, you're going to do bad things, and then you're going to feel worse and worse about yourself, and then you'll end up on those concrete steps. And so I don't find you. I said, you had about another hour to go. I hadn't stepped in and walked up those steps and found you and brought you up here and did this, you'd be dead. No, you're not. Now you're alive. You're born again. Because do you charge? I said, no. When you go down those steps where my front door is, there's a nice little table with some flowers on it and a burning candle and a little basket. That's where I put my keys. I said, you put whatever you want in that. You tell me, you show me what value towards what you value, which is money. You put it in that basket. And he goes, can I come back? I said, you can come back any old time you want. And I'm normally here pretty much every day. Sometime between 3 and 4 is when I get back home from whatever I'm doing out there. And so anytime after 3 or 4, if you come at 4, you'll definitely find me, right? So, he goes down. I keep reading. It's summerish time, so it's about 7 o'clock. And I walk downstairs and I look in that basket, and he left me 5 Benjamins. He probably took everything he had in his wallet and stuck it there. So, no, that's nice. I, kept 3 of them in the basket and put 2 in my pocket and went out and had dinner and went to a couple of places. I would, pool halls is what they're called. And, because I had the cash, I could then play the guys who played for money, right? And I'm a pretty good pool player. I could be more than pretty good if I was in the zone. Anyway, so off and did that. That was fun. Went to Chinatown about midnight, and then went, just walking through downtown, seeing what garbage was where and what I might pick up. And anyway, so that's how my practice started. About a day or so later, I was at home and knocked on my door. I went down there. Was another guy in a Brooks Brothers suit. He goes, Charlie, he said that you saved his life, and I feel the same way. I don't know what to do. I'm really, feel like I'm dying. I said, yeah, well, we're all dying every day. So I did the same thing to him. Anyway, within 2 weeks, I had 5 guys who would visit me regularly, at least once a week, right? I'd get home by 4, and one of them would show up, right? And I had a little, once they started showing up regularly, I found this little occupied sign. You put the thing, it says occupied on this side, and this side it said open, right? So I put that on my front door so they'd walk up and then the place said, write what time you want to show up tomorrow. So I did that. So within a month, I had 5 guys, and each of them were dropping off $500 every time they come visit me. Because before they met me, they were spending like $5 grand on cocaine and another $5 grand on prostitutes, and so got them out of doing all that. But they never got to the point. I just became their the thing that they needed to do. Instead of like getting homeostasis within themselves, I was the substitute for the heroin. Right? So I did that for about a year. I don't spend much money. Kept putting it away. I lent, gave. People were doing stuff. I had a really good friend. She wrote a PhD thesis on homeless women, and they wouldn't give her a PhD because they said there were no homeless women. This is 1974. So she said, really? And so I had a friend of mine who's a real estate guy, and Sylvan Warren Real Estate, and he had a building on 8th Avenue, around 40th, and there was nobody wanted to rent it. It was the crappiest neighborhood. It was where all the prostitutes were, where everything was really, really bad. But it was beautiful. It was about 3,000 square foot, 1-story building. It's where some big skyscraper condo is probably now. And so, I basically had my buddies who were contractors, and we fixed it up, and we made it the first women's shelter in the United States. And then she's an anthropologist, sociologist. She documented it and went back to her, went to the state and said, hey, here's. And then she totally embarrassed Columbia for like dissing her, and she got her PhD at Harvard. So. But when she built that thing, I dumped about 20 grand into that. Just because they didn't have any funding from anybody. I got the real estate guy to give them the building, but let them use it for an extended period of time, and I got my contractor buddies to fix it up to code, so it would be, okayed by the city, and that's how you get things done. And I had this friend of mine, Kerry Shea, who was the most powerful political fixer in the United States, definitely in New York State, but United States. But anyway, that's how you get things done, right? And did I get any credit? No. But all these people who were like top of the heap, I could walk into their door and say, hey, let's do this. And they'd say, okay. Not today. You can't do that now. I go into those people's offices. I can still walk in and not to those same people, but people who took their place. And they, oh, yeah, we heard about you. And they'd sit down and listen to what I have to say. Well, that's nice. But the thing I get these days mostly is you're overqualified. So that's why I talk to you guys, because I expect you to go out there and do those things. Right? And if you need my help, call me up. I'll be right there. Go send me a bus ticket. John keeps going, I'll buy you a car. I need you to blah, 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 blah. I said, John, I can't even get out of here. Well, I'll get my sister. I said, no, John. I said, we're now heading into spring. This is the time to stay here. I've already lived through the Holocaust. Anyway, how much time we got? We in the red zone yet? 20%. Anyone got questions? There's 3 of you there. 2 thumbs up. Again, you want to get a hold of me, dudalake42 at Gmail, dudalake42 at Gmail. Throw something old PayPal. That'd be nice. I got it all sussed out. It works. That's about it. Otherwise, you want to put something down in the discussion. Oh, David. 5 with sunset up. No, this. Let's see if this thing's working. Yeah. Yeah, see, it's working. What time is it again? 3 o'clock yet? Almost. Anyway, gotta go. We're about to. I don't like to crash the computer. I like to get out of the show in a civilized way. So, okay. Stay well, be good. Try and see you, as much as I can, but it's definitely limited by how much my gas is like. And the weather stays like this. And basically, I looked through all my weather things. I looked at all the computer models. And we're right on this thing. We could stay like this and for the rest of the winter, and that'd be great. 60 degrees, sunny all the time. I love it. So, but if it wobbles a little to the south, we'll have ice. A little further more, we'll have 2 inches of snow. A little further more, we'll have 5 inches of snow. Tonight and tomorrow. So tonight, tomorrow, all the way to Wednesday is that iffy, because there are these loops of moisture that are coming up from the Gulf, and there's a cold bubble coming, not like the one we just experienced, but cold enough to make it snow. If it rains, not a problem. I don't mind rain, but snow really sticks me. But everything's kind of prepared to survive whatever is coming, so I'm good. When my buddy come and got me, I didn't, shut things down, turn things off, so that's why everything froze. But no, nothing really broke. So I have to say, praise Jesus on that one. And thank you, Lord, for everything you give me, right? And I am here every day in every way to take your piece of the world and make it stronger. Don't have to be on TV, don't have to have any of that stuff. You want to put me in a place where I make millions? Fine by me. I'm well jiggered to not go off the reservation. And I didn't go off the reservation. God and Ann said, well, you need to be a total hedonist. You need to experience. You need to understand why does the Western world do what it's doing? You're the anthropologist. You live with ancient indigenous folks with the nose. No, you have to go, live with the guys with the Brooks Brothers suits on, right? The Armani outlooks. So anyway, I'll talk to you later.